It was supposed to be an ordinary evening. Just me, rushing home from school, eager to escape the stress of exams and social awkwardness. My house was unusually quiet. Mom had gone out for the evening, leaving me alone with her. My stepmom. I had never really thought of her in any complicated way. She was always there, smiling, gentle. A woman who tried hard to fit into a family that wasn't originally hers. But tonight something changed. I was walking into the living room, carrying a stack of textbooks in my backpack, trying not to trip over the clutter I'd left earlier. At the same time, she was hurrying in from the kitchen, carrying a cup of tea, probably trying to calm her nerves after the long day. She'd had. Neither of us noticed the other until it was too late. Our collision was sudden, chaotic, and entirely unavoidable. My book slipped from my hands, falling to the floor with a muffled thud. The cup teetered in her grasp, and instinctively I reached out to steady it. That's when it happened. Our lips met. It was brief, no longer than a heartbeat, but it felt like time slowed down. My heart skipped wildly, and I felt a flush rise to my cheeks. Her eyes were wide, staring at me, frozen in shock. I immediately pulled back, stepping away, almost stumbling over my own feet. I'm so sorry, I stammered, my voice cracking, trying to explain something that didn't need explaining. The words sounded hollow even to my own ears. She was silent. Not a word. Only those eyes that seemed softer, warmer yet confused, searching for something in mine. And then the faintest blush spread across her cheeks. We both knew this wasn't normal. It wasn't just an accident of clumsiness. There was something else. Something unspoken that had been lurking in the background all this time, hidden beneath polite smiles and casual conversation. Something that had been waiting for this moment to make itself known. I tried to focus on the books scattered at my feet, trying to ground myself. But my mind kept drifting back to the warmth of her lips, the way her hand had brushed against mine. The electricity that had sparked in that brief contact. I didn't mean... I started again, fumbling for words, but she raised a hand, stopping me. It's okay, she said softly, almost whispering. Her voice was calm, but there was a tremor I couldn't ignore. A tremor that matched the fluttering in my chest. I swallowed hard, trying to act normal. Are you okay? I asked, my eyes avoiding hers, focusing instead on the mess we'd caused. She nodded, a small, almost imperceptible smile forming, but her gaze lingered on me longer than necessary, and my stomach twisted in response. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. Not entirely. For the next few minutes, we both quietly cleaned up the scattered books and the spilled tea, the air thick with tension. Every movement, every glance, seemed loaded with meaning we weren't ready to acknowledge. The room felt smaller, the world outside irrelevant, and I became painfully aware of every tiny detail. The curve of her hair as it fell over her shoulder, the soft sway of her dress as she bent down to pick up a fallen book, the gentle sound of her voice as she muttered something about the mess. I realized in that strange, dizzying moment that I was seeing her differently, not just as my stepmom, not just as someone polite and kind, but as a woman who could stir feelings in me I hadn't expected. And judging by the way she avoided my gaze, hiding behind her soft smile, I wasn't wrong, she was feeling it too. Chapter 2, A New Awareness. The day after the accidental kiss, I could barely focus on anything. Every class, every lesson, every passing moment was a struggle to keep my mind from drifting back to last night. I kept replaying the scene in my head, the way her eyes had widened, the blush that had colored her cheeks, the soft tremor in her voice when she told me it was okay. It was a memory that burned itself into me. Impossible to ignore, and yet I couldn't bring myself to confront it. School felt like a blur. I sat through lectures, staring at the pages of my notebook, but the words made no sense. My classmates' voices became background noise, their laughter distant and hollow. Every step I took, every turn in the hallway, reminded me of her, of the way she moved, the warmth of her presence, the subtle charm she carried without even trying. And then I noticed her. I was walking past the school, entrance between classes, when I saw her standing near the parking lot. My heart froze. She wasn't supposed to be here. Stepmoms didn't come to schools, not usually, and yet there she was, casually leaning against a pillar, watching me as if she knew exactly what I was thinking. Her expression was unreadable at first, thoughtful, melancholic, a soft smile playing at her lips. But the moment our eyes met, I felt a jolt, a sudden awareness that she was watching me in a way that went beyond casual observation. I looked away, pretending to tie my shoelaces, pretending I wasn't shaking on the inside, but I could feel her gaze burning into my back, and it was unnerving, thrilling, and terrifying all at once. For the rest of the day, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was thinking about me too. Every text I received from friends, every notification on my phone, every glance from a stranger, it all faded into the background. My thoughts were consumed by her, by us. I tried to tell myself it was impossible. Stepmoms and stepchildren weren't supposed to feel anything like this. It was forbidden, dangerous, wrong, and yet, the more I tried to suppress it, the stronger it became. By the time I got home, my stomach was in knots. The house was quiet again, but it no longer felt ordinary. Every creak of the floorboards, every soft sound from the kitchen, every faint rustle in the living room seemed magnified. And then I saw her. She was in the living room, sitting on the sofa reading a book. Her hair fell over her shoulders, catching the evening light in a way that made it shimmer. She looked up as I entered, her eyes locking with mine, and in that moment, it was as if the world had shrunk to just the two of us. She smiled faintly, a gentle curve of her lips that made my chest tighten. "You had a long day," she said softly, closing the book. Her voice was calm, measured, but there was something underneath it, something I couldn't name, something dangerous. Yeah, I stammered, trying to sound casual. "It was fine." She tilted her head, studying me with those eyes that seemed to see everything, my thoughts, my fears, my confusion, and I knew, without a doubt, that she saw more than I wanted her to. For a long moment, we just stared at each other, the silence stretching, heavy and intimate. My mind raced. Could I ask her about last night? Could I confront her? Or would that ruin everything? I decided to remain silent. And she didn't press. Instead, she got up, walking toward the kitchen, leaving the book on the sofa. I followed her with my eyes, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. Every movement she made seemed deliberate, graceful, yet casual, almost teasing in its subtlety. Dinner passed in a strange, tension-filled quiet. We spoke politely, exchanged the usual questions about the day, but beneath every word was an unspoken undercurrent, a shared secret that neither of us was willing to address. Every accidental brush of her hand as she passed me, every glance that lingered too long, every soft laugh that carried a faint shiver in my chest. It was driving me insane. Later, as I retreated to my room, I caught myself staring at the door, wondering if she would come in, wondering if she would say something, do something, anything to acknowledge the unspoken tension between us. And then came the memory I couldn't escape. That fleeting moment of closeness, that accidental kiss. The way our lips had met so unexpectedly. I had tried to dismiss it, call it an accident. But deep down, I knew the truth. It had awakened something in both of us. Something that refused to be ignored. I sank onto my bed, burying my face in my pillow, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. I knew the danger, the consequences, the impossibility of it all. But my heart refused to listen. My thoughts kept drifting back to her smile, her voice, the way she had looked at me last night. And somewhere deep inside I realized that the world I had known, simple, ordinary, safe, was gone. It had been replaced by something dangerous, thrilling, and irresistible, something that promised both ecstasy and pain in equal measure. Tonight I understood it fully. Nothing between us would ever be the same again. The accidental kiss was no longer just a mistake. It was the beginning of something new, something forbidden, something that neither of us could control. And as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I made a silent promise to myself. I wouldn't ignore it. I wouldn't pretend it didn't exist. Because whatever this was, whatever it had become, it was real, and it was only just beginning. Chapter 3. Forbidden Thoughts. Sleep was impossible. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, but my mind was far from calm. The accidental kiss wasn't just a fleeting moment anymore. It had settled into my thoughts, like a stubborn ember, burning brighter the more I tried to ignore it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. I saw the way her hair had fallen over her shoulders, the slight flush on her cheeks, the gentle tremor in her voice. I saw her eyes, those deep, expressive eyes that seemed to pierce right through me. And with every memory, my heart raced, my chest tightened, and I felt a strange, dizzying mix of fear and desire. I knew it was wrong. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to stop. She was my stepmom, someone I was supposed to respect, someone off limits. But desire doesn't follow rules. It doesn't listen to reason. It simply exists, insistent and consuming. I rolled over, burying my face in my pillow, hoping that if I pressed hard enough, I could smother the thoughts that were tormenting me. But it was useless. My mind kept drifting back to her smile, the curve of her lips, the warmth of her touch, even if accidental. And then I remembered something worse. The way she had looked at me after the kiss. Not angry, not even embarrassed. Her gaze had lingered. There had been something in it, something unspoken, something dangerous. I sat up abruptly, my hands gripping the sheets. Could she be feeling the same? Could she want this too? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. The idea was both terrifying and thrilling. Days passed, but nothing changed. We coexisted under the same roof, pretending everything was normal. I kept myself busy with school, with homework, with anything to distract my mind. But even as I tried to avoid her, even as I avoided thinking about her, my senses seemed to betray me. Every soft laugh from the kitchen, every shadow crossing the living room, every brush of fabric against the floor. It all reminded me of her. It was during one of these quiet afternoons that I realized how much I was noticing her now. Small details I had never paid attention to before. The way she hummed softly when she cooked. The way her hair caught the sunlight just so. The way she absent-mindedly twirled her ring on her finger while reading. Every little gesture made my heart ache in ways I couldn't name. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, that it was natural to notice someone who lived with you, that I was imagining things. But I wasn't, I knew it. My chest burned with longing every time she was near, every time she smiled at me, every time she spoke to me. And I noticed she was noticing me too. It started with the glances. Quick, fleeting, almost imperceptible at first. But then they became longer, more intentional. I caught her looking at me from across the room. Her eyes soft, curious, almost vulnerable. I saw the way she lingered near me when we passed in the hallway, pretending to be busy with her tasks. And sometimes, I thought I saw her lips twitch in a shy, knowing smile. The forbidden nature of it all made it worse. The danger of crossing a line we weren't supposed to cross made every glance, every accidental touch, every shared space feel like electricity. One evening I found myself in the kitchen, ostensibly getting a glass of water, but really hoping to see her. She was there, chopping vegetables for dinner, humming softly. She looked up as I entered and our eyes met. That small connection, just our eyes, made my chest tighten. "Long day?" she asked softly, her voice casual. But there was a subtle tremor beneath the calm. "Yeah, you too?" I replied, trying to sound normal, trying to ignore the blush creeping across my cheeks. She nodded, but her eyes lingered, too long. And in that moment it hit me again. She was feeling it too. There was no denying it. I felt a mix of exhilaration and guilt wash over me. Every rational thought warned me to stay away, to maintain boundaries. But my heart wasn't listening. It was screaming for more. That night, I lay in bed again, unable to sleep. I thought about the kiss, about the way it had made me feel, about the way her eyes had looked at me afterward. And for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine what it would be like if it wasn't an accident, what it would be like if we allowed ourselves to explore the feelings that were clearly there, simmering just beneath the surface. The thought made me shiver. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once. I knew the consequences could be disastrous. Our family, our lives, our relationship, all at risk. And yet the temptation was unbearable. I realized then that the accidental kiss had done more than just shock us both. It had awakened something we couldn't ignore. Something forbidden, yes, but undeniable. Something that was already changing the way we saw each other, the way we interacted, the way we thought. I closed my eyes, trying to calm the storm inside me, but I knew it was futile. The spark had been lit, and there was no going back. Our lives, our feelings, everything was shifting in ways neither of us could control. And deep down, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, it wouldn't be simple, it wouldn't be easy, but it would be real, and for better or worse, I couldn't wait. Chapter 4. The confession that shook me. The rain had been falling steadily for hours, drumming against the windows with a rhythmic insistence. that matched the chaotic beating of my heart. I had spent the evening in my room, trying and failing to focus on homework, on reading, on anything that would take my mind off her. Then came the knock. I froze. It was soft, almost hesitant. A sound so ordinary, yet it made my pulse skip a beat. Slowly, I walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. She was standing there, outside, in the rain, her umbrella tilted at a slight angle. Water droplets glistening on her hair, clothes slightly damp. Her eyes, they were fixed on me, wide and intense. A mixture of vulnerability, longing, and something I couldn't quite name. What are you doing here? I stammered, my voice betraying the nervousness I tried to hide. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she just held my gaze. And in that long, heavy silence, my chest tightened. The night air, the rain, the distance between us, it all seemed charged with electricity, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Finally she spoke, her voice soft but steady, carrying a tremor I could hear even through the glass. I can't stop thinking about that night, she whispered. My stomach twisted. The memory of that accidental kiss, the warmth of her lips, the shock, the way it had felt like the world stopped, flashed vividly in my mind. I had tried to suppress it, to push it aside, but it had refused to leave. You mean the kiss? I asked, my voice barely audible. Yes, she admitted, stepping a little closer. The faint glow of the streetlights illuminating her face. I've tried to ignore it, to tell myself it was just an accident. But I can't. I think about it. About you, all the time. The world seemed to spin around me. Her words, they shouldn't be possible. She was my stepmom, someone I was supposed to respect, admire from afar, and keep a safe distance from. And yet, here she was, confessing that she felt the same forbidden pull that I did. I don't know what to say, I muttered, my hands gripping the window, still as if it were the only thing keeping me, anchored to reality. She looked down, biting her lip, then back at me, eyes glistening. You don't have to say anything, I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I needed you to know. I felt a shiver run down my spine, equal parts fear, excitement, and longing. My mind screamed at me to step back, to shut the window, to ignore the dangerous path we were teetering on. But my heart refused to listen. Why now? I asked, my voice trembling. After all this time? Why are you telling me this? She sighed, a soft, almost melancholic sound, and her fingers clutched the edge of her umbrella tighter. Because I can't pretend anymore. Every time I see you, every time we talk, every time we're near each other, I feel this pull, and I can't deny it. I really tried. But tonight, watching the rain, thinking about that moment, I realized I can't go on like this without telling you. The intensity in her eyes, the honesty in her voice, it all struck me like lightning. For the first time, the impossible seemed possible. The tension that had been simmering between us, that had haunted my thoughts, that had made every glance, every accidental touch, every shared moment feel electric, it had found its voice. I feel the same, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. My chest ached with a mixture of relief and fear. I've been trying to ignore it, trying to tell myself it's wrong, but I can't. I think about you, all the time too. She blinked, a mixture of shock and hope crossing her face. The rain ran down her cheeks and strands of hair stuck to her face, but she didn't care. She didn't try to fix her appearance or hide her emotions. She just stood there, bare and honest, exposing herself to me in a way that left me breathless. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. Two people caught in a storm of forbidden emotions, aware of the consequences but unable to resist the pull between us. I know this is wrong, she said softly, almost hesitantly. I know it's dangerous and we have to be careful. But I can't lie about how I feel. Not anymore. I nodded, unable to speak. Every instinct in my body warned me to step back, to run, to avoid the chaos this could bring. And yet, every part of me wanted to step closer, to close the distance between us, to feel the warmth of her in the rain, to finally act on the feelings that had been building for weeks. I don't want to hurt anyone, I whispered. But I can't stop feeling this either. She smiled faintly, a mix of sadness and hope. And I could see tears threatening to spill. Then maybe we don't have to fight it. But we have to be smart, careful, secret. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding so violently I feared she could hear it. Secret Okay, I can do that. I want to. And just like that, in the rain, under the soft glow of streetlights and the curtain of falling water, our forbidden feelings were finally acknowledged. The spark that had been ignited by an accidental kiss was now fully ablaze, undeniable and uncontrollable. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know how we would navigate the dangerous path we had chosen to step onto. But in that moment, none of that mattered. All that mattered was the truth between us. All that mattered was her. And as she finally turned to leave, giving me a small, hopeful smile before disappearing into the night, I realized one thing clearly. Nothing would ever be the same again. The accidental kiss had been just the beginning. Chapter 5. The tension builds. The days after her confession were unbearable. Every moment we shared was a delicate dance, a tightrope walk between desire and restraint. It was like the world had shifted, and we were now orbiting each other in a strange gravitational pull that neither of us could escape. Even the simplest things, the way she handed me a glass of water, the way she asked if I needed help with something, the way she lingered near me in the kitchen, felt loaded with meaning. Every glance, every accidental brush of our hands, every shared breath sent shivers down my spine. It was during one of these evenings that the tension became almost unbearable. I was helping her in the kitchen, supposedly just washing the vegetables, but really, just trying to be near her without overstepping the invisible line we had both agreed upon. She was chopping ingredients with precision, her hair catching the soft warm light, and I couldn't help but stare, my mind spinning. "You're staring again," she said softly, without turning to face me. Her voice had a teasing lilt that made my heart leap. I'm not," I stammered, trying to sound casual, but my ears burned with heat. She let out a small, knowing laugh, still focused on her work. "Sure," she said almost playfully. "You always do this. You think I don't notice, but I do." My heart skipped a beat. Did she really notice? Had she always noticed? Or was this part of the teasing that made the tension between us so unbearable? I focused on the task in front of me, trying to wash the vegetables without dropping them, but my hands trembled. Every time she reached past me to grab something, our bodies brushed. Each touch, though fleeting, sent sparks of electricity through me. I could feel the warmth of her skin, subtle but intoxicating, and I had to fight the urge to turn and look at her directly. She glanced at me, raising an eyebrow, a small smirk forming on her lips. "You're tense," she said. "Relax, we're just cooking." "Just cooking," I repeated, trying to convince myself as much as her. But her presence made it impossible. The air around us was thick with unspoken words, forbidden desires and anticipation. At one point, we had to reach for the same utensil at the same time. Our hands collided, lingering slightly longer than necessary. I could feel her pulse under her skin, the subtle warmth that radiated from her. My chest tightened, and I quickly pulled my hand back, pretending to focus on something else. "Careful," she said softly, almost a whisper, and her eyes met mine. That glance, it was enough to melt my resolve. We continued cooking in silence, but the atmosphere had shifted. The kitchen, usually a place of mundane routine, had become a chamber of tension, intimacy, and subtle seduction. Every glance, every movement, every sound was amplified, charged with emotion. Later we sat at the small kitchen table, plates of food between us, trying to act normal. But normality had been lost the moment our lips had first met, the moment we had confessed what we truly felt. Every bite of food, every sip of water, every word exchanged carried an undercurrent of tension. At one point I reached for the salt, and our elbows brushed. She looked up at me, and for a moment it felt like the world had stopped. Our eyes locked, and I saw the same mixture of longing, fear and desire mirrored in hers. I can't stop thinking about it," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "About us?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached across the table, her fingers lightly brushing mine as she adjusted the plate. The touch was gentle, almost casual, but the impact was electrifying. My heart raced, my palms grew sweaty, and I realized that I was powerless against this pull. "I know," she finally said softly, her voice trembling just slightly. "Me too, every moment. Every day. I think about it. All the time." We sat there for a long time, fingers lightly touching, eyes locked, breathing synchronizing. The kitchen, the house, the world outside, all of it faded. There was only her, only me. only the tension that had been building for weeks. Now palpable, impossible to ignore. And yet, we didn't cross the line. Not yet. There was still restraint. Still the knowledge that this was forbidden, that what we felt was dangerous. But the edge of temptation hovered close, teasing, daring, whispering promises we weren't ready to voice aloud. As the evening wore on, she stood, gathering the dishes with practiced efficiency. I followed, helping as best I could, though my mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Every movement, every glance, every accidental brush of skin reminded me that we were dancing on the edge of something we couldn't control. When the kitchen was finally clean, we stood side by side, the warm light casting soft shadows across the walls. I wanted to say something, to close the distance, to finally act on the feelings that had been simmering between us. But I didn't. Instead, I simply exhaled, feeling the weight of desire and restraint coexisting in the same moment. She looked at me, a faint smile on her lips, her eyes reflecting the same tension, the same longing, the same unspoken promise that I felt. "Good night," she said softly, turning toward the stairs. "Good night," I replied, my voice barely audible, my chest tight with emotions I couldn't fully process. As I watched her disappear upstairs, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The tension between us wasn't going away. It was growing, feeding on every glance, every touch, every shared moment. And I knew, with terrifying clarity, that the next time we were alone, the line we had been dancing along would be even harder to resist. The forbidden attraction wasn't just alive. It was thriving, and I wasn't sure how long either of us could resist it. Chapter 6. Crossing the Line. It was a quiet evening, the house unusually still. Mom had gone out again, leaving the two of us alone. I didn't know why, but something in the air felt charged, heavier than usual, as if the universe itself was urging us to confront what we had been dancing around for weeks. We were in the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. I could feel her warmth even across the small distance. She was reading a magazine, but her eyes kept flicking to me. Every glance made my chest tighten. Every small smile twisted something deep inside me. I tried to act casual, flipping through a book I had brought from my room, but it was pointless. She was closer than ever, her presence pressing against the edges of my thoughts, and I could no longer ignore it. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, her voice low, intimate. She set the magazine aside, leaning slightly closer. My pulse spiked. "I'm fine," I replied, though I could barely meet her eyes. "You?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached across and brushed a stray hair from my forehead. Her fingers lingered, warm against my skin, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Her eyes met mine, searching, daring, soft but electric. And then it happened. I leaned forward slightly, and she mirrored me, the space between us collapsing. Our lips met, not the accidental brush of before, but deliberate, searching, hungry. I felt her warmth, her breath mingling with mine, and every part of me that had longed for this moment ignited. We pulled back briefly, both of us breathing heavily, eyes wide, hearts pounding. I shouldn't, I murmured, though my hands found hers instinctively, holding them tight, desperate. "I know," she whispered back, her voice trembling. "But I want this too." We didn't speak after that. Words were unnecessary. The couch, the living room, the dim light, they became our sanctuary, our forbidden world where time stopped and only the two of us existed. Every kiss, every touch, every hesitant caress deepened the bond that had been building for weeks. We explored slowly, carefully, aware of the danger but unable to resist the pull. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. A collision of hearts that had been quietly yearning for each other. Hours passed in a blur of whispers, gentle touches, and lingering embraces. And when we finally rested, curled up together on the couch, our foreheads touching, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. We had crossed the line. There was no going back now. Not emotionally, not mentally. The accidental kiss had been just the beginning. This deliberate surrender to our feelings was something far more profound. And yet amidst the exhilaration, there was a subtle tension. A reminder that our love was forbidden. Every caress carried both joy and danger. And I knew we would have to navigate it carefully. But for now I didn't care. For the first time in weeks, I felt alive. Truly alive. Chapter 7. The Choice. The following days were surreal. Living together after crossing the line was a mixture of bliss, tension, and careful discretion. We were cautious, always aware of the boundaries we couldn't publicly cross. Yet every stolen glance, every secret touch, every quiet moment together deepened the connection we had forged. One afternoon, I found myself in the backyard, under the old cherry blossom tree. The petals drifted down like soft pink snow, the golden light of sunset bathing everything in warmth. And there she was, standing there waiting for me, hands folded loosely, a serene expression on her face. "I wanted to talk," she said softly. "About us?" I nodded, stepping closer, my heart hammering in my chest. The blossoms swirled around us as if the world itself had paused for this moment. "We can't just go on pretending," she continued. "We have to decide what this means, what we are willing to risk." I swallowed hard, my hands instinctively finding hers. "I know," I whispered. I don't care about the consequences. I just want to be with you. But we have to be careful. We can't hurt anyone." Her eyes softened, and a small smile tugged at her lips. "I don't want to hide how I feel. I don't want to regret not being honest with you." We stood there, hands intertwined, petals falling around us like a pink storm, the world narrowing down to just the two of us. In that moment, there was no fear, no hesitation, only clarity. "We'll figure it out," I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "Together." She nodded, squeezing my hands gently. "Together," she echoed. And in that instant, I realized the truth. Love doesn't always follow rules. It doesn't wait for the right moment or the perfect circumstances. Sometimes it appears in the most unexpected, forbidden places, and the only choice is to embrace it fully, or lose it forever. We stayed under the cherry blossom tree long after the sun had set, talking quietly, laughing softly, sharing hopes, fears, and dreams. Every petal that fell seemed like a blessing, a promise of what could be. And for the first time, I felt a sense of peace. A sense of hope that despite the complications, despite the world's rules, we could find our own path. The accidental kiss had started it all. The confessions, the tension, the stolen moments, they had led us here, to a choice we were ready to make together. And as the final rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be ordinary again. But for the first time, nothing needed to be, because whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them as one. Hand in hand, heart in heart, we had chosen each other, and that was all that mattered.